Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Arsenal Ramble, where today we're going to be doing a little bit of build-up towards the Brentford game this weekend. I'm here joined, as ever, by my co-rambler, Dave. Dave, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm all good, mate. Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. I feel like after the loss at the weekend, our souls have slightly been cleansed. Seeing other teams drop points, and then
Hmm.
actually our souls were re-dirtied by celebrating a Spurs win. Is that even a
Yeah,
word? Re-dirtied?
it makes sense. It makes sense. I get it. Yeah, no, like thankfully, uh, although we lost, all of our direct rivals in this title chase have also dropped points. That includes Man United dropping points against Leeds, and also Newcastle dropping points against West Ham in that 1-1 draw. So, yeah, it's a double edged sword. Really, we could have capitalised, but ultimately, at least we're no worse off. And in fact, we're one game even closer. So, you know,
Yeah, exactly. So the way I see it as well is before the weekend, we were in exactly the same position, but we had one game more to get to the finish line.
mm,
So we're literally we're finishing that game week, so to speak, in exactly the same position, apart from we're a game closer. So that can only be a good
mm,
thing. And I had so many Arsenal fans that I saw on Twitter saying that you can't be a real Arsenal fan if you're rooting for Spurs, wanting Spurs to beat Man City. But to be honest, why would you put Spurs' agenda, like they're nowhere near us in the league for a start, but why would you
mm.
even worry about their league position more than our own league position? Because that then becomes an obsession over Spurs. I want
Yeah,
I, I only care about Arsenal, and I only care about how well we're doing. And if they need to do well for us to do well, if anything, they should be feeling bad because they're doing us a favour. So,
boyhood
it's
Harry Kane fan.
yeah. Harry Kane giving his boyhood club the Premier
Yeah.
League title. Hopefully, if it comes down to it, that would be a great narrative to write. But yeah, so that's really good, and it's really good to see that Newcastle drop points and to see that Man United drop points because it
Yeah.
just re-solidifies our position in the top four, and it just makes it more exciting for this league title.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I
go
mean,
for it.
and then
Yeah.
psychologically as well, like the fact that we haven't actually come off worse or off, that we've got a young team that could easily be psychologically sort of out toughened, if you will. I know that's not quite the professional way of saying it, but do you know what I'm trying to say? Like they're a young team, and little setbacks like this can really get into your head. And we've seen it in the past. I mean, if you can remember to last season, we went on like a 3 game loss streak at least 3 times. Do you know what I mean? So it took us like 3 or 4 games to get into the rhythm again before we'd eventually pick up a result and go on another little run. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to this Brentford game to hopefully put the Everton game to bed. Because we've also, let's not forget, lost to Man City in the FA Cup as well. This is the first time we've essentially lost 2 games on the bounce. I know it's a different competition, but psychologically, it's going to be a good test to see if we can bounce back.
yeah, that's a really good point that you actually make about how last season this team tended to lose games. Lose games in a
Mm.
row, didn't they? Used to
Yeah,
lose 3 games in a row or so, but we've not seen that at all really this season, and that just shows the character that Arteta's built in the team, and just shows that we are able to come back from and in adversity be able to get a win,
mm.
even if the confidence is low. We're able to come back and get a win. So fingers crossed. We're playing at home against Brentford, who are playing really well this season, and we've always, we've had a tough time against them in recent seasons, but I feel like we've got the facilities to be able to beat this Brentford team, but we're going to talk a little bit about our team sheet first and foremost going into
Mm.
this game because I think potentially it could be influenced by the absolutely massive game that we've got a week yesterday, on Wednesday, next Wednesday against
Yeah.
Manchester City. Now, we can we afford to be fielding all of our first 11 in both games, or do we need to rotate to keep them fresh?
Well, I don't think we can just write off Brentford and think, oh, they're a lesser team. Every game matters in the Premier League. These 3 points are very much needed. So we would be very naive to go straight rotation. Obviously, we've got to have one eye on the City game. However, I do think he might rotate a little bit. Maybe some underperformers in recent weeks may get drafted out and come on off the bench. And I'm thinking maybe Tomiyasu for Ben White. I'm thinking maybe Trossard for Martinelli. Give those guys a little bit of a rest, and maybe they're fresher for the Man City game. Trossard's obviously done well in the little cameos that he's had so far, so it could be interesting to see how he does from a starting position. So yeah, I think that it's strange because we haven't had it too much, have we, this season? We've tended to, especially since the World Cup, we've not really had to worry about midweek fixtures and rotating heavily. We've just basically had one game a week, so we've been able to just field our best 11. But we've got this little conundrum now, and I do think that he probably will rotate slightly, but not heavily. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a problem that we didn't really have earlier in the season. It's the fact that he knew who his starting 11 was because there was literally no depth to be able to choose anybody else. So it made it really easy in being able to choose the first 11. But the only problem that comes with more squad depth is the fact that you have to make the choice of who's going to start the game. And if you underperform or that player underperforms, then Arteta's under scrutiny basically straight away because he's made the wrong decision. He's made the wrong choice because everybody knows that the player that's on the bench would have done a better job than the player that's on the pitch. Because if you lose the game, they always say they make the wrong decision. But that does, when you say about the players that have been underperforming, such as Ben White, such as Martinelli, and then maybe swapping them out for Tomiyasu and Trossard, if Tomiyasu and Trossard then have a good game against Brentford, do you think there's a case for them to then be starting against Man City? Because why should two players that have been underperforming that then get dropped against Brentford be starting against the toughest team in the league over two players that have come in and, their performances have improved the team?
Well, this is what strength in depth is all about. It's about competition for places, isn't it? It's something we've not had historically. Last season Tomiyasu was probably our starting right back, so he's probably aggrieved that Ben White's now got that position. So he's going to want to fight for it back, So it works both ways. He's probably had it ripped out from under him as well. Trossard, new player, coming to impress, has impressed in cameos. He's not come here to sit on the bench, I don't think, in his mind anyway. It might start off like that, like it did with Ramsdale when we signed him and Bird Leno was number one. But sooner or later, he's going to want that position for himself. And, maybe it won't happen. Martinelli's obviously a brilliant footballer, but he's certainly took a little bit of a dip in form. And I think there are other reasons for that, as we've discussed in other podcasts with the Eddie Nketiah situation and the link-up play that Jesus has over Eddie. It has affected Martinelli. But I certainly do think that if they do perform well, then yeah, why not? Give Arteta that problem. It's a good problem to have at the end of the day. We want to win games, and ultimately, who cares who is the player that delivers that for Arsenal?
Yeah, that is true. And also, what I was going to say is there a case for maybe Bukayo Saka getting a rest against Brentford and having Martinelli start on the left and Trossard on the right, just because Trossard's quite two-footed and he can play off either flank. And Saka's just looked absolutely knackered in the last few games that he's played. He's really not been at it. He's not been the same player that we're all used to seeing. So I know he's so integral to the way that we play and the way that we build up. And it could be a bit of a mistake to leave him out because, you're jeopardizing the potential 3 points. But do you think that it might benefit him just to have him rest on this one? Maybe come in the last 30 minutes to get him up to speed and then start him on Wednesday? Or
not for me personally. Now, like I said, it's such a crucial game. So is City, but he's had a good week to rest. I know he has looked knackered in games, but in that Everton game, I don't think he necessarily looked knackered. I think he just didn't get that service. Well, no, not even that. It was just he was marked out of the game. Let's be honest. He was triple manned. He didn't have the freedom that he normally has against most teams. We got Sean Dyche at the end of the day, and Saka and Martinelli felt the brunt of that. So I don't necessarily think he was, exhausted or anything like that. I just think they played to their strengths. They really did mark them out of the game, and they knew for a fact that Eddie Nketiah does not drop in like Jesus would and cause chaos. So there's only one way that essentially nullifies 3 players just by taken out of our wingers, because without the service, Eddie Nketiah is probably not going to score or get many chances. So I don't think we can afford to not play Saka in this game. I don't think there's really any need to not play him. And also, we don't have the luxury of many true right-sided options. We've tried Vieira there in the past, not necessarily works. We've sent Marquinhos out on loan now. Reece Nelson's injured. I think he's started to train again a little bit, but he's had that historic hamstring injury. So we're not blessed with options there. What do you think? Would you rest him then, or?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And to be honest, if we're going to be a top team and we want to be able to compete in, say, like the Champions League next season, then you're not going to be resting your best players in the Champions League, are you? You're going to be playing them as well as at the weekend. So they're young players, they're fit players, and they should be able to play twice a week at a high level. But I just thought maybe there might be a case just to freshen him up a little bit. But for me personally, I would play Saka every single minute of every single game just because he is so effective. He's probably, I would say, one of our best players, maybe our best player in an attacking sense. So there's no reason why he shouldn't be playing. But the only thing that I would say about him getting nullified and getting Sean Dyche, as you say, is that's when we need our central players to step up and really make those, like when Xhaka near the start of the season was making those marauding runs in behind the centre-back randomly. That's when we need to be able to shift it quickly from right to left and to central. Just because if you've got 2 or 3 players all on Saka, then he needs to pop it to Odegaard, who's going to then play maybe Xhaka making a run, and then if they're following Xhaka's run, then it opens space for Martinelli. And we just didn't really see that too much in the Everton game. So, that we definitely need to be working on that. And I would be starting Saka. So if we're going to go through the team sheet, then so to speak, we'd both be starting Ramsdale. We'd be starting Tommy or Ben for you.
Personally, I'd like to see Tomiyasu come in because I think he's started to get that form again. He's looking more and more sharper off the bench, and I think it's that time now where he needs to start. He needs to show what he can do with a bigger portion of the game to play at. And Ben's obviously underperformed. He just doesn't look quite himself. I don't know why, but maybe just a little bit of a rest might kick him up the arse a little bit. It's hard to say what's going wrong.
Yeah, the thing is with Ben White as well, he's such a confident character, and I feel like him not being in the team will really motivate him to try and get back in the team because he's the sort of player that feels like he always deserves to play. Like you saw what happened at the England camp when he wasn't in the team. He was obviously really frustrated and wanted to get into the team to the point where he was trying to pull up all of his facts and figures and his statistics to the assistant coach, and then obviously they disagreed and whatever happened. But yeah, he's just going to be so motivated to try and get back into the Arsenal first 11 if Tommy does play. So I would go with a Tomiyasu start as well. Centre back?
I think, you got to keep it Saliba and Gabriel.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a bit controversial on this one. And I would actually start Saliba and Kivior. I'd give Kivior his first start against Brentford.
Would you?
Just because Brentford, like Everton, they're a really physical side. They're going to be whipping in a load of crosses. And Tony in particular, he's pretty quick in behind as well. And Kivior seems like a physical monster. He's really big. He's really quick, and I want to see what he can do. I want to see this guy play, and I feel like we should have both of our centre backs fresh for the Man City game, but we can't leave both of them out because then we're really dropping in quality if we were to put Rob Holding and Kivior in
Mm.
there. But for me, I would love to see him make his first start in an Arsenal shirt.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, because of all the players this season who's played the most, it probably is Gabriel, which is
Mm,
obviously one of the main reasons why we've signed Kivior, because sooner or later that's going to come to bite you in the ass when he gets injured and we've not got a like for like replacement. Um, so yeah, I could certainly see what you're saying. The only thing that worries me is just that fear of the unknown. We've never seen him. We don't
mm,
know. We don't know him. I've seen a handful of World Cup performances for Poland, the most recent tournament. He looks like a tidy player, to be fair. I just don't know whether this would be a bit of a baptism of fire for him, and maybe um, just an easier. There's no easy game. Let's be honest, but just an easier game to sort of integrate him in a little bit.
yeah, like a Bournemouth or something like that, because they're
Yeah.
doing really badly at the minute. But yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. Maybe in the Europa League, if we've got a fairly
Mm,
easy fixture in the next game, because I think it's two legs, isn't it? In the next round, it might be good to play him in the
yeah.
first or second of the two legs, or
Mm,
maybe start Gabriel and have him come on in the latter stage of the game just to see it out if we're winning comfortably. Then that could
yeah.
be a good time to introduce him into the team. But yeah, it's always nice to see a shiny new signing to actually get
Mm,
on the pitch and see what they can do. But so moving on to left back, for me, it's got to be Zinchenko, hasn't it? It seems like
mm,
there was a lot of debate between him and Tierney at the start of the season, but for me, Zinchenko's shown that he's head and shoulders above Tierney, and I think in Arteta's eyes, the way that he progresses the ball and the way he steps into midfield, it's so much more natural to him than it is for Tierney, and it's so
mm.
integral to the way that we build up our attack. So for me, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm the same, to be honest. Like I think the key word is integral, isn't it, to our play? Like he's he's crucial to that build-up play, especially with Xhaka essentially acting as that wide forward at times, and we saw it in the United game with that cross that he just put on Eddie's head for the equaliser. He can do that. He can really push out the players and bring in Martinelli on the inside a little bit, which is exactly what we missed in the Everton game. We just didn't have that. So yeah, he's crucial to that play, and yeah, I have to agree with that one.
Yeah. Okay, so moving into the centre of the park,
Mm.
is Partey still injured?
I don't think he. I don't think he is injured. I just think that they were took a bit of a precaution, um, just because of the bruised ribs. They didn't. They thought. I think you could tell because he went on off bang on the 60-minute mark, and for me
Mm,
that suggests that it was
pre-planned.
pre-planned.
Mm,
So yeah, I don't think he is necessarily injured. I just think that they thought 60 minutes is probably about right, and obviously with the Jorginho signing, it gave us that option um, that we didn't necessarily have prior to the signing.
okay, so maybe a case for Jorginho starting,
There's,
or
def-
are
there's
we then
definitely a,
changing to it?
there's definitely a case for it, but I personally wouldn't. We talk about integral. He is more integral to our play, isn't he, Partey? He's just one of a kind, and something that you could noticeably tell from the minute he went off how much it affected us in the Everton game. And if he's fit or even remotely fit, for me, he plays.
Yeah, I think he is the best number six in the league, isn't he? To be honest, for
Oh,
me anyway,
for me,
he's
definitely.
unmatched. There was a debate maybe that he was close to Rodri last season, but for me now,
Mm.
he is definitely the best number six in the league. And
Yeah.
I do see what you're saying. Our whole play does tend to collapse when we don't have him in there. even if you just maybe try and chuck Lokonga in there, but you have every other one of our starting 11 on the pitch, it just does not gel the same. He's the whole engine room of the team. He can get the ball in the spin. He can pick out a pass. He can go past a player. He's so confident. Players can trust him with the ball, and they can trust him to be able to cover spaces so that they can move into different areas of the pitch. He is so integral to our game, and I was happy with the Jorginho signing, but he did look a little bit lost when he came on against Everton. He didn't look as integral as Partey has been. So hopefully
Yeah.
that changes in time, and maybe a bit of Partey might be able to rub off in Jorginho. But yeah, for me it's Partey.
Yeah, and to be fair to Jorginho, I don't necessarily think it was his fault in anything. It wasn't the greatest time to come on in the game, and I'm certainly not judging him off that 30 minutes that he had against Everton by any means. And if anything, I think I know he's here to be back up for Partey, but I also think he's got a claim for maybe playing in that Xhaka role as well. I don't know whether that's going to be a bit controversial, but I think just that quick movement that he's got with the ball, we were saying it earlier, we need to be moving the ball around quicker and sort of break the lines every now and again on the half turn and things like that. But we just did not have that in the Everton game. And we know Xhaka can burst forward and provide goals and assists, but what he doesn't have is quick feet. He's very slow on the turn. So maybe having a Jorginho to come on in these games, or even start in these games potentially, it might just speed up that midfield process a bit more. It's a potential option.
Yeah, that is actually something that I didn't think about. That's a pretty good idea, to be honest. If we could get both Partey and Jorginho ticking together, there might be a little partnership that could be brewing there. Yeah, I think the only thing with Jorginho is the fact that he's right-footed, isn't he? He's not left-footed. So Arteta likes to keep all of his left-footed players on the left-hand side, right foot. For some reason, he just likes it, doesn't he? But it could always be a different option. So maybe that's something that he might consider. But but in this game, I wouldn't like to have that partnership change just yet. I would like to have Xhaka start for me. So I would have Partey and Xhaka in the centre of the park.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and then so Odegaard, Cam,
without a doubt. Yeah,
yeah.
without a doubt. I mean, the only the alternative is Vieira, and he's just not quite there yet. He did okay actually coming on the other day. Looked pretty sharp. He's definitely getting sharper, just not sharp enough. I think these upcoming Europa League games will be a godsend for Vieira, because that's where I think he'll either come to life, or we'll see that he's just not quite ready yet, and it might be one for the next season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've got the draw, haven't we, in 2 weeks' time? So it'll be interesting to see who we get, because if we can manage to get a lower team, then we've got more scope for rotating a bit more in that, and maybe we will see some of the players like Kivior and Vieira get more minutes there, which will hopefully show us a bit more of what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about Odegaard as well, I know his form has dipped a little bit in the last couple of games, but in all of the matches that we played since the World Cup, so from Boxing Day to the point that we are now, I'd say at least 80% of those games, he was the man of the match for me. He was unbelievable, played out of his skin, getting assists and goals and having a real captain's performance. So he is someone who, you can't be on the bench. He is one of our most important players, along with Saka and Partey and Zinchenko. Everyone's an important player. So, but Odegaard is definitely up there. So he is one of the first names on the team sheet for me. So right wing, I think we both said Saka. I don't think we need to go into that too much. It's Saka. Left wing is the only position left, really, which I would say there's any contention for somebody different to Martinelli, which is Trossard. Now, who would you be starting, Martinelli or Trossard?
What I would do personally is I would start Trossard, and then I would bring Martinelli on in the last 30 minutes or so, just to swap it out a little bit. Not only does it provide Trossard with that ability to show what he can do from a starting point of view, but it also gives Martinelli that little kick up the arse, and also gives him the opportunity to do what he can do off the bench. Because in the past, we've seen how electric he can be off the bench, and when you've got tired legs, what you don't want is someone as direct as Martinelli running at you. So it could be a little bit of a win-win situation there. What about
Yeah.
you? What do you think?
So I would do the same but opposite. I would I would
Okay.
start Martinelli and then I'd bring Trossard on in the last half an hour or so, just because I feel like it worked quite effectively when we played against Man United, and
Yeah.
I want to see that kind of rhythm reignited. I want to see if there's something there. Maybe if Trossard is better against some heavy legs, because he's quite a tricky player. He's got quick feet and he's got a great shot in him. I'd say
Yeah.
arguably he's probably got better finishing than Martinelli. He's got a better end product, but Martinelli is probably better in terms of getting to that zone. So
Yeah.
I'd say probably I'd start Martinelli and then I'd finish
Mm.
off with Trossard. It does beg the question though, when Smith Rowe is back, when he's finally back, what are
Mm.
we going to do? Where's he going to fit into the team? Because we've already suggested that maybe Jorginho could even fill into that 8 role. So that was somewhere else, which was dubbed for maybe Smith Rowe. We've got 2
Mm.
players that can play in the number 10 role. Where's he going to fit in?
Mm. It's a good question, and one I don't really have the answer to be honest. It's quite topical as well, because today more news has come out, and it sounds as if he's got like another little bit of an injury setback, and he's not in training again at the minute. So not only have we got the worries about where's his true position at Arsenal, we've got the worries of are we going to have another Jack Wilshere type player on our hands where they could just never get fit. I think it's far too early to be saying that, obviously. But it is a bit of a worry for me. I am a bit worried about these constant niggles. But, from a medical point of view, having such a big operation, it's bound to have its setbacks. It's bound to, especially as a young player, it's bound to sort of have little knock-on effects, because it's not actually directly related, this injury. It's sort of like a niggle that's caused due to the surgery. So I think that is a positive, that it's more of a niggle injury than anything serious. But yeah, going back to the position thing, I thought he was really effective off the left, especially off the bench. I mean, I think he got into double figures last year with goals. So most of them were off the bench. He was such a great option to have. But I do think there is potential for that number 8 role. I would like to see that. I definitely would be curious to see how it would go. There's also the option of playing him as that sort of 9, or maybe a false 9, that we've tried in the past. I think it was a Villarreal game in the Europa League. Didn't work great, but the whole night didn't work great. It wasn't necessarily as a result of playing Smith Rowe in that position. It was just bad day at the office. So, and that's sort of the last time we saw that. So, I would be intrigued to see how that would play out. But then we've got players like Balogun that are smashing League One that are going to be returning to Arsenal next year. So it's like you
Yeah.
struggle to see it, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, why would we want a false 9 player when we would have Gabriel Jesus, Eddie Nketiah, and Folarin Balogun all wanted to get in the team? So I don't think there would be any space for him there either. But I do like the idea of him going into the 8 position, just because the thing that we've noticed the most about Xhaka this season is his runs in behind. And I feel
Mm.
like Smith Rowe could do that, but even better. And he's more technical. He's a lot better in an attacking sense than Xhaka is. So
Yeah.
it's just whether he'd have the know-how to be able to, and the positional awareness to be able to counter players when they are on the counter. If he's
Yeah.
got the street smarts to be able to drag them down like Xhaka would, or to be able to intercept passes and things like that. But that's parts of the game that he'd be able to learn. So
I think
yeah,
so.
I'd be really interested to see that.
Do,
But
do you know? Do you know what would really interest me is if he could just study how Jude Bellingham plays. And I know this is like a really wacky idea, but the way Jude plays is actually very similar to Smith Rowe,
mm,
i.e., the fact that he's pacey in bursts, strong, and can drive with the ball at speed whilst maintaining control of the ball, an eye for a pass. I know Jude's taller, but that doesn't necessarily mean stronger. And I do think if he could sort of emulate what Jude can do in midfield, you could have very similar profiles there. And Jude plays in that position, so I do think there's scope for it, and I'd love to see it. I do wonder if behind the scenes this is something that they've been hoping that he could adapt to, especially with the
mm.
signings that we're making. We're looking at Mudryk and we've got Trossard. They're all left-sided players. So it doesn't quite add up if we've got a Smith Rowe coming through. So you'd think we'd be targeting more right-sided wingers, wouldn't you? So it does sort of make sense. And yeah, I do. I really would be intrigued to see how that could turn out.
Yeah. Or we could just buy Bellingham and not have to train Smith Rowe into a Bellingham. if Because I see that at the minute, I think it's Liverpool that are sniffing around him the most to be able to try and get him in the summer window. But why on earth would somebody of Bellingham's quality? I know Liverpool, they're still a decent side, and they've had a bit of a lot of a fall from grace this season, but
Hmm.
it looks unlikely that Liverpool are going to be in the Champions League next season. Why would he want to go from Dortmund, being a first team player, playing the Champions League, contending for the title in the German league, potentially if Bayern Munich aren't the machine that they usually are, um, and join a Liverpool team which won't even be in European competition? And there's no guarantee that they haven't reached the end of their life cycle in terms of this title winning team, because some of the players, the players that made them that great, Salah, Van Dijk, they are getting old. They're getting aging players, and they look like they
Hmm.
might be, they're in the twilight of their careers. So there's no
Yeah.
guarantee that Liverpool are going to be hitting the heights that they have hit for the last 4 or 5 seasons in the next 4 or 5 seasons. So for a player like Bellingham, I know I'm biased, but Arsenal would be one of the best places for him to go because it's a young team. They're all
Hmm.
improving. We could potentially be in Champions League football next season. We could potentially be Premier League winners next season. Uh, it would be an unbelievable place for him to come in. It'd be an unbelievable player for
Hmm.
Arsenal to sign. So, for all
Yeah.
parties involved, that would be a really good signing. I think it would just literally be the matter of price because we don't like to spend too much on it. We don't go over 100 million really. We don't tend to do that. So I do think we might get priced out of the move. And then if we have got our eyes on Rice as well, that would
Yeah.
just be impossible.
Oof. Imagine having a Rice and a Bellingham in your team, like the future of England at Arsenal. That would you've got me into dream mode now. But yeah, I, might as well throw a hat into the ring. If we can sort of afford the price range, then why not? You know, uh, who else is likely to get Champions League this year? If you had to guess, it would be City, it would be United, and then we're talking Newcastle or Tottenham, probably at the minute. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot to play for, so anything can change. But couldn't see him playing for Tottenham. Couldn't see him playing for Newcastle. I could see him at City, to be fair, but they have now got this massive court case against them, which is obviously going to be, um, any signings they make going forward are going to be fine tooth combed, put it that way. So the sort of fees that it would take to get Bellingham, would it be feasible with financial fair play and all that sort of stuff? It's hard to say. I'm not no expert in that field, but so then it makes maybe Arsenal one of the most attractive Champions League, Premier League teams, doesn't it? So yeah,
Yeah.
got to throw a hat in the ring, but it sounds like to me that it's going to be more of a Rice or a Bellingham because let's be honest, they're both huge statement signings and would probably be our biggest signings since the Mesut Ozil days. Can't
Mm.
think of many signings that we've made since then that have really been wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. And talking about Bellingham potentially, maybe choosing City, then he wouldn't really want to be playing for a team that's in the Championship after they get relegated. So I'm, I'm not sure if that's what he would choose. But since we're talking about that, I think we should maybe bring it up about the whole Man City and the FFP rules that they've broken over the last, is it 13 years or so, and they're only just getting pulled
Mm,
up on it. Um,
since '09, yeah.
yeah, I've seen a lot of things on Twitter of rival fans saying, "Oh well, if Man City get points deducted, then that's the only reason why Arsenal have won the league," and then saying that it's like a league title in inverted commas. There's like an asterisk against it. But for me personally, my views are that on it are the fact that if Man City do have these points deducted, then that's because they've been caught cheating. And the only reason that they're actually in the position that they are in against Arsenal is the fact that they've cheated to get that team. So
Mm,
they shouldn't even be contending with us in the first place. So there shouldn't be any hesitations to say, oh well, Arsenal don't deserve to win the league because Man City got punished, but they're being punished rightfully.
yeah,
It's not the fact that we've only won the league if we do, win the league, because we're still better than 18 other teams which haven't cheated. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Oh, massively. And like you say, with the punishment, it has to be severe. Otherwise, they don't care about money at the end of the day. They're essentially a country that can just throw whatever money the fine would be, and I'm talking a fine would be a soft punishment. The
Mm,
punishment needs to be relegation. It needs to go down the divisions. We've seen it before in Serie A with Juventus twice. That's happened twice to them, um, and that is something that no money can get you out of. If you know what I mean, you're in the Championship for at least a year, no matter what.
mm,
Um, if it's points deducted, that's too soft for me. They've done it. This has spanned over a decade. And what they're just going to get 15 points taken off them for one random season in the future. All
yeah,
them titles, essentially have just been bought for the fact that you can just deduct 15 points off some random season in the future. It has to be severe for me.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
they deserve to be playing in the Championship.
I completely agree, because to say just knocking a few points off it is literally just like a slap on the wrist for, uh,
Mm,
well, basically over the last decade they've been the best team in the Premier League, and that's because they have. It's not been proven yet, but because they've cheated, so it should
yeah,
it shouldn't be allowed. And yeah, the fact that the punishment could potentially be a fine is crazy, because the reason why they're in trouble is because they're spending lots of money to be able to win the Premier League and to be able to try and win the Champions League. They're funding a nation state is literally funding a Premier League football team to try and win. It's like pay to win. So for their
yeah.
punishment to then be to pay a fine,
Pay.
yeah, it's like, well,
Stupid, isn't it?
it's just contributed to the whole irony, and it's hypocritical, really, of the Premier League if they were just to fine them. It's ridiculous. So yeah, they need to have something which isn't money related as a
Yeah.
punishment, which would be going to the lower leagues, sort of similar to
Mm.
how when Rangers went down as well in the Scottish
Yep.
league. So it has to happen, and I would not even shed a tear for them, to be honest. And I don't think it would take the edge off Arsenal winning the league if we did win the league this season. And and
Mm.
to be honest, if it did happen, I think it's unlikely anything would happen this season anyway. Just because
Yeah.
Man City they're gonna debate everything, because I think there's over 100 counts of them flouting the rules, isn't there? So they're going to debate every single one of them, and each one that they debate is probably going to take a good few months, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it might not even happen until next season. So we don't know what's going to happen, but there needs to be a massive punishment. And I do think as well that might be a reason why we've not seen Newcastle spend as much as we thought they would when they first come in. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. 100%. Because there's been countless times where they've been linked with players that they could have splashed the money on, and they've held back, and then other teams have come in and got them. And if that's the case, then fair play. They're abiding by the rules, and I can't really gripe with that too much. But when Chelsea got took over, it was a bit, especially for Arsenal fans, because what did they do straight away? Nabbed Ashley Cole off us, and it added that extra dimension to it as well. City go and do it. What do? They nab Nasri off us. They nab Adebayor. They nab Sanya, Clichy, Colo. It's just like
Jesus,
wow, wow. Just leave us alone. Luckily, now we took Zinchenko and Jesus off them and may win the league, so we could be getting revenge. Let's hope, anyway. But another little caveat to it all is they've employed the same lawyer to try and get him out of this mess that they had in the case that UEFA brought against them when they nearly got dumped out of the Champions League, which eventually got overturned. So that worries me a little bit. But on the flip side, the lawyer representing the Premier League is a diehard Arsenal fan.
No,
if you knew this, he is. Yeah, he's a diehard Arsenal fan. Can't remember his name, but it's on Twitter somewhere if you have a little look. So that could add an extra little spicy dimension to that one.
It's not someone called like Schmarsen Smenger or something like that. Just got a toy mustache disguise. But and talking about Arsene Wenger, he actually warned about all of this, didn't he? He said that this is going to come round and bite them in the arse in the future, and it looks like it's happening. And I do think Chelsea do need to be careful because of how much they've spent in this season as well. They might get in trouble in the next few years or so. So it's, if anything, it puts me in a more confident state, seeing that Arsenal haven't splashed as much cash that these other bigger teams have over the last few seasons, and hopefully we don't get in any trouble. But I don't think we will. I think we've maybe, I think it was last summer we spent the most, but apart from then, not this summer just gone, the summer before, sorry, we spent the most. But apart from that, we've been relatively, cash strapped.
Yeah, but you have to remember, we are a massive global club. Arsenal are a massive global club with a massive fan base. Hence why they generate this sort of income. When Man City are claiming that they're getting all this extra money from their fan base, that they can't even fill a 40,000 seater stadium or whatever it is, it makes you think like this commercial revenue that they're claiming is rubbish. It can't be true. And obviously, we're going to have to allege it. It's all alleged at the minute. Obviously, just put that out there. But hopefully that's going to now come to light. But Arsenal are a massive club, and just like Man United and Liverpool, they're also big clubs that generate their own income and then spend it however they deem. Liverpool, in my opinion, spent it very wisely over the last decade, and probably should have had a lot more success. And they would have had a lot more success had City not been there. So it's teams like that, and I know it sounds weird to feel sympathy for them, but if we was in their shoes, how would you feel? They've lost out on several titles probably because of the sports, because of Man City. And it's Man United as well. They've lost out on titles.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not fair. And they've cheated, so it shouldn't even be the case. But so, if I was to give you a little hypothetical scenario, I just want you to tell me how you feel about it. So,
okay,
Arsenal win the league at the end of this season. Man City get relegated because of financial fair play flouting the rules.
Yep.
Liverpool have reached the end of their current generation, and they don't look like they're ever getting back to the top for the next few seasons. They have to start a rebuild. And Arsenal over the next few seasons are completely dominant. I feel like that is something which could potentially be on the cards, which a season ago seems absolutely bonkers. And it looks like we could potentially, I'm not trying to, jinx us or anything, but there is real scope for Arsenal to be the dominant force in the Premier League over the next couple of seasons.
Essentially so. And this is why it was so clever with our recruitment strategy by buying young players for the future that were already performing at a pretty high level, that are now performing at an even higher level. Next season we're going to have an Odegaard that's a year older and more experienced. We're going to have Saka and Martinelli a year older and more experienced. We're going to have Ben White and Saliba if he signs a new deal. Ramsdale. It's just like we're already set. We just need to add little pieces here and there and just fine tune it. Whereas other teams like Chelsea are just throwing the checkbook to try and buy success. It's a really dangerous position because they're also offering out 8-year amortized contracts that could blow back in their face and destroy them. And, so we're being really clever about it. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see that we're doing it the right way. And I think if we were to win the league, it would add that extra. I'm pretty proud of that one sort of asterisk to it.
Yeah, that's a better asterisk to have. Is we'll take that one instead. So I think we got so sidetracked to the point where we actually forgot to include a striker into our first 11. We're doing the team sheets. I think we did about 25 minutes after talking about who's playing left wing. And we actually forgot to say it. So we're going to be playing with 10 men on Saturday, boys. Nketiah, you stayed in the dressing room. But yeah, I mean, that's an easy choice, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we haven't really got another choice, have we? Didn't quite work against Everton. I do think he was just sort of nullified out the game with the wide men's taken out of the game. So hopefully we can sort of find the solution to that problem in this game and going forward. What that solution is, I don't know. I'm not a tactical genius. I don't know how to say how we get around that. But we have to think of something to be able to stop teams from doing this to us, because you'd like to think, well, you would like to think, but teams are probably going to be using this as a blueprint to defend against Arsenal, because it's worked at Newcastle, it's worked for Everton, and to a degree, even Leeds tried to do it to us, and they were probably we were probably fortunate to get a win at that game early in the season. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, but yeah, Eddie's going to have to start, and hopefully he can sort of link up a little bit better in this game.
Yeah, and I think that's essential, isn't it? The centre of the park in this game, just because of, as you said, the Brentford, they're going to play really similarly to Newcastle and to Everton. They're going to double/triple up on Saka and Martinelli or Trossard, whoever starts on either wing, and we're going to be very reliant on the middle of the park. So we do need to have Xhaka, Zinchenko, Partey, Odegaard, Nketiah all on it, being able to make those runs whilst Saka and Martinelli are, occupying players on the wings. So, yeah, fingers crossed we can. The perfect scenario for me is just to get that early goal and just to settle all the nerves, and then we can, we're so good at seeing games out now when we go into the lead that and we have so much energy when we start the games. We seem to always start with a bit of a flurry, and then if we don't score in the first 30 minutes or so, we kind of panic a little bit, which isn't something that it's not something that we did early in the season. We used to just keep plugging away, but it's almost like recently there's a bit of doubt creeping in. If we don't score in the first half an hour, then it feels like we're not going to score. So yeah, fingers crossed we score early. It's going to be a party atmosphere. It's at the Emirates. We've not lost at the Emirates all season. I don't think we've even drawn at the Emirates all season, have we? Our only
I
draw
don't
was
think
against
so.
Southampton. I think that was away. So we've only won at the Emirates this season, which means we've scored in
Oh,
every game that we've played.
there's a Newcastle, isn't there?
Oh yeah. Was that at home? Were we at home? I can't remember. Oh yeah,
I think it
we were.
was.
But it was a very frustrating game. But okay, apart from that game, we've won every game of the season at the Emirates this season.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
I've got full confidence in the boys, and I do really hope we get the 3 points, and then we
Mm.
can really steamroll into the game on Wednesday against Manchester City. So
Yeah.
I think we've pretty much summed up everything
Well,
going
I,
into the weekend. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Or
I was just going to add a little bit extra onto the home game topic. Was um,
hmm,
looking into our next 9 games, 6 of those are at home.
hmm.
Do you think this? How massive do you think that's going to be for this little chunk of game? Well, it's not a little chunk; it's a big chunk of games. How crucial do you think that's going to be for Arsenal? Because we do have, like you say, a bit of a fortress at home, and not only are they at home, they're all winnable games apart from City.
What do you mean? It's not a winnable game. Of course, it's a winnable game. Yeah, no, it is. It is really important to have a big run of home fixtures because, as you say,
Mm,
we've been so dominant at home this season, and I do genuinely feel like if we play any team at home, then we've got potential to be able to beat them, or at least not
yeah,
lose to them. And a draw against Man City wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because it keeps us, it keeps us as we are pre-game, post-game. We don't want them gaining
yeah,
any ground on us, basically.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, so yeah, I think it's a really good run of games to be able to have all at home, and it's at the point of the season where after the next 9 games, we're going to be hitting like the 27, 28 game mark, aren't we? And then that really is going into the last stretch, the
Yeah,
home run, so to speak, going into the final few games. And if you've got a healthy lead in front of the team that's in second place in the last 10 games, then
yeah,
it's just a straight run, straight jog to the finish, isn't it?
yeah. That's when it becomes proper game time, doesn't it? And I think after those 9 games, the run of fixtures does get a little bit more tricky. So if we can have banked as many points as we possibly can in these next 9 games, then it puts us in good stead. And another caveat to it all as well is in that previous game at Everton, I noticed that the pitch that was noticeably like cut up and real nasty pitch, and not the sort of pitch that allowed us to play our free flowing, fast paced ball on the floor football. And that's
Mm,
obviously a tactical thing that Everton put in place when we're playing at home. Obviously, it's our pitch, our rules. We play the way we want to play on the pitch that we want. So I know it's minor stuff, but that really did affect us in that game. So I'm glad that we can hopefully get back to seeing that quick passing football.
yeah. I think you learned that one off Jurgen Klopp, didn't you? It's one of his
No,
specialities, isn't it?
it's true though. It's true. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and we do play fast and zippy football, so it goes to our strengths, and we have the most crisp carpet at the Emirates. And it's been such a long time since we've both been. We haven't been since the
Yeah,
Brighton game that we actually ended up losing in the cup, which is a
yeah.
bit of a bad taste in our mouth. So we're going to have to try. It's impossible to get tickets at the minute though.
I was
So
about to say
you know
that. Yeah,
it's so high
they
because
sort these.
everybody. Sorry, I
Sorry,
said.
I was just going to say if they sort these robots buying tickets and touts the situation, because I've seen they're trying to caveat that, but there's no simple way of doing it, is there? So yeah, it's so tough, and obviously we've witnessed it trying to get Premier League tickets. If you can be there bang on when they're released, you still got no chance. So it's frustrating, especially as we've been going for so long when it was easy to get tickets, and now when you really want to see your team playing well and you struggle, it's really 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 annoying.
Yeah, that's it. When we weren't playing very well It was easy to
Yeah.
get tickets, and then now we are playing really
Yeah.
well. And it's hard to get tickets, so I don't know what I'd rather have. I don't know if I'd rather watch it at home and us be winning the league, or go to every game and us finish eighth. It's a bit of a tough one. Nah, I'd rather
Yeah,
watch it at
we
home.
were the jinxes. Yeah.
It was us. So
It
everybody
was
can
us all.
thank us for not going to the games. And
Yeah.
so that's probably going to bring us to the end of the episode today, unless you've got anything else to add, Dave.
No, that's it.
No,
It's all good. Yeah.
no. So we play on Saturday against Brentford at home, and hopefully we'll be able to get the 3 points there and put us in really good stead to go against Man City next Wednesday. But we're going to be doing our next podcast probably Saturday evening, maybe Sunday morning.
Yeah.
After the Brentford game. And if you guys want to follow us on YouTube, you just type Arsenal Ramble into YouTube and we'll pop up. Make sure you leave us a like and a subscribe on there. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at Arsenal Ramble _. Okay, guys, thank you. See you later.
Take care, guys. Bye.